Hey guys, just a quick video because I really wanted to show you this. This is probably a rare opportunity to see one in such fine shape. And what we have on the bench today is the SBE SB-36. It's 10 through 80 meter upper lower sideband transceiver, also CW. Now, you don't see a lot of these radios, and when you do see them, you don't see them in this good a shape. Let me just let you take a good look at the front panel and you just see just how nice this thing is, and pretty much laid out very well. But you're probably wondering, you know, SBE, that name sounds familiar to some of you. SBE also made a lot of CB radios back in the day. Now, False Gonset, he sold the Gonset line and it kind of disappeared, but he also had opened up SBE, which is single sideband engineering, and he produced several of these amateur transceivers. You know, they didn't really sell that well. They started off, you know, with the SB-33, had a lot of problems, and they got a little better, but the problems continued on into the SB-35 and SB-36. So, you know, a lot of people are thinking back in the day that Kenwood with his 520 and Yaesu with the ST-101, you know, both of those rigs built in Japan. You know, a lot of people think they were the first hybrid rigs to be built, which is not true. The SBE was the first true hybrid radio that was in a small package transceiver. You know, it's what they call a mobile style radio, because these could be mounted in the mobile. And as you can see, it also has the external speaker and power supply with it. So, you know, yeah, you remember the old Siltronics 1011Cs and some of the Swans, you know, they were all considered mobile radios with external power supplies. But, you know, Gonset, he later on sold SBE, I think it was over to Raytheon, bought them out. And they later, you know, produced CB radios with the SBE label on them. So, you know, the thing is, you know, the other two brands were made in Japan, but this radio right here was made right here in the United States of America. So, yeah, they were true U.S. engineered and built radios. And for what they are, they're very neat the way they are built. One thing that I love about this radio is, let me show you this. Yes, those are Nixie tubes. It has 6 Nixie tubes installed in the radio. Now the owner wants me to repair this one for him. Let's cut the anyway, yeah, turned it on, heard a little CW there. So, you know, the receiver in this one is working. The transmitter's down. The load control didn't work. But, you know, I'll be working on this one. Also, if you noticed in the display, you can see the 1 and the 4. And the 4 is a bit distorted. And that's because, for some reason, that number 9 is stuck on all the time. So I don't know if there's a short somewhere in the bottom of the tube, or if there's a short on the band switch. But that 9 shouldn't be there. And when you go to the other bands, the 9 is still on, which the second digit for another band still, you know, show up. Like when you go to 28 megahertz, it almost completely hides to number 9, but yeah, it's still on. And there you can see the 9 is lit up like it's supposed to be on the 29 megahertz band. So yeah, real exciting piece of equipment. And not only do we have one with the power supply, we have a second unit sitting over there. Now the owner said if I can fix this unit, I can have this speaker and power supply along with the second radio. So I do not think it'll take a whole lot to get this one going. Like I say, there's very, very, very low transmit. It's only putting out a couple of watts, so there's something in the PA section that's not working quite right. And I went ahead and fixed the load control, and the other one has the same problem with the load control, and we'll be working through that, and I'll show you how to remedy that. It actually uses like a dial cord to turn the capacitor in the bottom through the load coil. So we'll be looking at that as soon as I can get the time to sit down and go through these radios. And hopefully, since this one is somewhat working, I can use it to help troubleshoot this one. So this one, when you turn it on, it has no transmit, no receive. It has the same problem in the other one, but in the third tube, you can see there's several digits lit up. But you can see the display does track with the VFO, but you see the first two tubes are not lighting up, and that tells me that one of the oscillators is not working. Now it has a 9 megahertz oscillator. It has an HFO oscillator, which is crystal controlled, and you have your VFO, which you know is an oscillator. So those three oscillators has to mix together to make everything come up and go to work like it's supposed to. And the fan in this one was stuck, and I've got it working, but it's a little bit noisy, so we got to go through that. So yeah, I'll have to take some of the information that I find in this one and write it all down and be able to transfer it over to this one. You know, so one good thing, I do have the original operating manual, and it's an original operator's manual, but it's not the manual that the techs would have used on the bench at the factory to work on these radios. This is probably one that was reverse engineered through someone, and the way you can tell is, you know, it's missing a lot of critical information that you would need when servicing one of these. And you'll see there's a lot of hand-drawn diagrams inside this. So this is not the factory original service manual. The original factory service manual was most likely probably never released. But we have that. I have a copy that I printed off, which is missing a lot of the information that is in that manual. But you know, it's got enough in it to help you go through. And we also have the manual on CD. So hopefully by having this radio, I can get the necessary information that's not in the manual and add it to the manual on some blank pages to get this other one back up and running. So if you go online and you download these manuals online, you'll find that they are missing most of the pictorials that should be in here. Unlike the one manual here, you know, you'll find those pictorials in it. You know, like the layout here of the radio, where different parts are located. and you will not get that in the online manuals. Now something I want to do is reproduce this manual, and I'll take my Nikon, which is going to get some, you know, high resolution photos, take pictures on here and mark this in, you know, in color, and add it to my site for folks can download it. So I'll be working on that as I'm troubleshooting this too, you know, so give me a little time. We'll see, can't we get those together. So, you know, later on down the road, Rayathon, which owned SBE, had dropped the amateur line of products. I think the SB-36 was the last one, and they went on to make CB radios, and you notice there is a line of scanners with SBE on them, crystal control scanners. So you know, they stayed in the radio business for a little while longer. They just weren't making amateur transceivers. Now, what difference between the Kenwood and Yazoo hybrids is that they only had a driver, which is a 12BY7, and two final amplifier tubes. This radio went a little bit step further, and that's why I said this was the true hybrid radio, the first one to be introduced into the amateur market, because this one runs a 6DQ5 driver tube, unlike the 12BY7. It also has a 6EJ7, which is your transmit mixer. We have a 6AWBA, which is your receiver mixer. And I think this is a 6B-Z6, which should be your receive AF gain amplifier. Also located in this cage is our counter boards for our Nixie tube, and you can see our Nixie tubes all lined up in a line up here. Yeah, so she's a little bit different beast than what your current hybrids that you have seen, you know, between the Kenwood and the Yazoos. So yeah, this was the first one, and like I say, you know, there's a few design flaws and problems in this tube. If you noticed here on the transmit tubes, you can actually see the final tube sockets, and they're mounted on this side of the cage. So you got a little interference here. This should have been blocked off or put inside the cage, but you know, I guess to save space, this is the way they done it. They kept the RF inside, so you do have drive potential RF coming into the tubes. Now on this one, you'll see there's a little knob here on the end of the VFO, and it's just a piece of metal that's been drilled out. One end is recessed for the screw to go in, and it's been knurled. And the other radio is actually missing that knob. So, you know, chances of finding one of those is going to be next to impossible. So I'm going to have to fabricate that part and see if I can make it. Something that I've been wanting to get is one of those little mini lathes from like Harbor Freight. Well, that will work good at fixing, you know, making parts like that. It doesn't have to be, you know, that precision, but yeah, I've been thinking about picking up one of those in the future to fabricate little parts like this, because we get old radios in here all the time that are missing little things like that, and it's just something you can't go out and buy. And also another thing that I would love to get my hands on one day, and maybe when the price comes down I'll be able to look at that, and that's the 3D printer. And the reason for that, a lot of times we'll find certain items on these old radios that are missing that could be fabricated and made with a 3D printer. That's like this old ICO 150. It's a solid state signal tracer. It works like a charm, but the bezel was cracked, and you know, I've looked around online, and yeah, I'm able to find the whole thing, but you're not going to find just the bezel. With a 3D printer, I could reproduce this bezel in a plastic and you know, sand it and paint it silver and put it back on here, and it would look original or close enough, you know. And you'll find a lot of times too on radios you can make special little parts that are plastic, that are worn, gears, so forth, that could be fabricated with a 3D printer. But you know, for this one it has to be a 3D printer with about a 10-inch printing base on it, which is going to be very expensive. So I don't know, one day maybe I'll get lucky and run across one to be able to do this stuff with. Be a great addition to the shop here for restoring these old radios. Anyway guys, be looking for this to come up on a future video. Still got a lot of work in the shop here, so we'll be working on this off and on here and there between other jobs. So you know, keep your eyes up for these coming along down. I think it's a great opportunity to, you know, work on a bit of rare history, and these things you just don't see all the time, especially in the shape that they're in. So hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, just a little quick short video, and we'll see you in the next. Bye now.